Welcome back to our OPS typing class. Today we're going to talk about a true legend, a Hollywood icon. You all know him from movies like Indiana Jones and Star Wars. We're going to talk about Harrison Ford. And it's actually quite weird that we don't know anything about his type until now. Holly and I have been practicing typing for several years by now, and in the past couple of months we've been getting additional typing practice and coached by Shan from Objective Personality. So the type revealed in this video has been confirmed by Shan and Dave. But we're doing these videos because we want to share our experience in learning how to type, our struggles, and the lessons we picked up along the way.
Okay, so as always, let's start with biases. So I know my bias was that he was an ISTP. I mean, he's a well-known action movie star, and I had this, he reminded me very much of Daniel Craig. So if you know who Daniel Craig is, you'll see some similarities just in how they look, but also they kind of play similar roles in movies as well. So that's why I was biased by ISTP. What was your bias?
I had the same bias going in. I thought he's an ISTP. How does his role of Indiana Jones not scream ISTP?
Yeah.
I had watched a few interviews of him before we did the whole typing process. And yeah, probably being a mopey IP seemed about right. But I also have to admit, which was a huge problem for this whole process, I really wanted him to be a close type twin of mine.
Yeah. So that'll be the topic for this class. How is Harrison not an ISTP? Okay, first we're going to start with the most important coin, which is decider versus observer. So let's have a look and see, is this a decider or is this an observer?
If I'm overwhelmed by special effects, I think that that's a judgment that the film is out of control. I don't mean personally I overwhelmed, but if the human part of the story is lost or there is an emotional relationship between the audience and characters in the film, you're missing something that's very important in films. People don't go to films to watch special effects, finally. They go to have an emotional relationship, to see something human, to learn, to be able to exercise their emotions.
Now, if we know anything about the observer or decider coin, we'll be able to tell that this is actually a decider conversation that he's having here. So he's asked about the special effects. And where does he go to? He goes to the human part of the story being the most important thing for him and exercising your emotions, not observer things. Now, because that first clip was a little bit short, we're going to look at another one here and see if we can again prove that he is a decider focusing on decider things.
Is it true that when you started acting, somebody told you you'd never be a star because you looked too much like a bellboy?
In fact, he said I acted too much like the bellboy. Here's the story in a nutshell: is that my first part had been a bellboy. My entire dialogue was Mr. Jones, paging Mr. Jones, room 607. Thank you very much. I was called into the office of an executive of Columbia Pictures to whom I was under contract, and told that I was told this story. The gentleman said, the first time Tony Curtis was ever in a film, you took one look at him and you knew that was a movie star. And I said, I thought you were supposed, in my case, to think that was a bellboy. And that was the crux of the argument that we had. Our relationship deteriorated from that point on, I must say.
So here he is quite clearly processing an argument that he had with someone quite a while ago. Now he's actually able to retell the details of the story quite clearly because this is something that he is stuck on. This is something that he has processed the what that has happened, but he hasn't processed it enough to actually move past it. So that's why he remembers all the details of the situation.
After decades.
Yeah. Now, just as a reminder, on the OPS website, the definition of a decider is someone who is stuck on judgment, they're stuck on fairness, they're stuck on people, and they're not stuck on missing information.
So if he's a decider, we should also be able to see that he's a double observer, which Holly already hinted at. He should not be stuck on missing information, and also he should be able to navigate control and chaos of life with relative ease compared to how he handles people.
It completely changes your life. The loss of anonymity is one of the most shattering experiences that I've ever gone through. And it didn't happen all at once, as I say. It was additives slowly.
How do you keep it from preventing you from living? I don't know.
Do you just ignore it and say, okay, I'm going here, I don't care whether I get bothered or not, I'm going to go?
Yeah, and you develop a way, little strategies for mitigating the effect it's going to have on you. There's a kind of purposeful stride, eyes not, in people's faces that'll get you through most crowded places. But it changes the options you have for behavior. And one of the things that's most disquieting about it is that for me it drives my kids crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
They have a really hard time being in public with me.
Yeah.
Because this is not their disease.
Yeah.
This is not their problem.
Right.
But they haven't figured out how to deal with it at all. I think I have. I can see, where I've enjoyed advantage and what it's cost me, and it's not the best deal in the world, but that's the way it came out.
Yeah.
I can live with it. But for them, it's wretched.
In this clip, Harrison talks about the experience of being famous. He, first of all, describes the experience as shattering. So people see you, they know you, and it just changes everything, and it is extremely hard. But at the end, he also says, yeah, I see the disadvantages and the advantages of the situation, and I'm able to navigate that. I chose that purposely, and it's okay for me. So seeing the black and the white in the situation, being able to accept all of it as a whole. But what's again the bottom line here? Where does he get stuck? What really pains him is the thing with the kids. Like, his kids didn't choose this life, but they are very much affected by it when they're out with him in public. And that's what he suffers from. He didn't want that for them, and he doesn't know how to deal with that aspect of being a celebrity. So as long as people aren't involved, he's really able to navigate the tricky situations and think on his feet. Sounds pretty much like an ISTP to me.
Sounds like you. Now we've seen that Harrison is a decider, so the next one we want to look at is OE versus OI. So just to recap the definitions of OE and OI. OE is channel changing, will see, wants control, but doesn't. OI has a way, it's the same story, they conclude, narrows, or shoves away new.
You've done a lot of smaller films or bit parts in films, but I read that you didn't like yourself on screen until The Empire Strikes Back. Is that correct?
No, it's not. I don't know where that came from. It's not. It never occurred to me to like or not like myself on screen. But I did play small parts in television before I got a chance to do film work. And what I didn't like was playing the same part over and over in television. I didn't like working in episodic television, which I must say was different then, had less ambition then than it does now. I think it offers an actor more opportunity now than it did when I was starting 25 years ago. But what I wanted to do was to be in quality films, and I wanted to hold out for that ambition. So, but I'm always critical of my own work, and I think until American Graffiti, I felt I never had the opportunity to, because of the size of the part, to develop a technique which finally began to serve me and to serve the people I was working for.
So the question was, is it true that you didn't like yourself on screen until The Empire Strikes Back? And of course, Harrison answers the question by saying, no, it never occurred to me to think about whether I liked myself or not. But then he goes into saying that he didn't like doing the same thing over and over again. He wanted something different, something new, but he did have some kind of plan, in a way, to hold out for something bigger, something better. But he did also say that he didn't have the opportunity, which is usually OE speak, to refine or develop a technique that served himself.
So Harrison is in general looking for variety and change, which you can see in some of the upcoming clips as well. But if he is Savior OE, the next question is, what kind of OE is this? Is this NE, so is he looking at abstract connections, or is this SE, so is he paying attention to his actual physical environment and trying to navigate it as best he can?
I love to fly.
I got to fly with the Blue Angels.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So did
How many G's did you pull?
I. 9.
Oh, no fair. Really?
Yeah.
I pulled 6.5. And I was doing a film. Director went up, my co-star went up. They all threw up. I didn't.
I didn't throw up either.
You have how many planes? Is it 4, 5,
Yeah.
6?
Yeah, something.
What kinds?
You really want to know?
I do.
have a de Havilland Beaver. I have an Aviat Husky. I've got a Cessna 206.
I
I've
flew a
got
Cessna.
Cessna 206, and I've got a Beechcraft Bonanza and a Bell Long Ranger 206 L4.
What does it do for you? Is it true about boys and toys and?
Well, there's some of that. There's some of that. I love the machinery and the freedom of flying. I like developing a skill and depending on my own resources, and I love the people that I meet in aviation. I like seeing the world from that perspective.
Are they different? How are they different?
I just know that people relate to me as a pilot when I meet them in that context, and that takes a little bit of the onus off the difference between us.
Between the actor and the person.
Yeah.
So when he's asked to give the host the sensory information about his planes, he's a little bit bored by the question, but he can just do it. And what kind of freedom is he enjoying that flying gives him? Is it kind of like physical freedom? They can just move where he wants and has this perspective from a sense of flying. But also notice where does he bring the conversation again back to the people? How people relate to him when he shows up at the pilot. They relate to him in a way that is very congruent with how he sees himself. Like as a pilot, which is part of his identity. They don't make him into this big celebrity. It's just more a relation on the same level, which he very much enjoys. And again, if this is Savior OE, do we also see Demon OI? Do we see a void and an absence of planning?
You had to have something you were going to do. And so you said...
Everybody did.
Right.
But I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't want to go sit in an office for 20 years. And also I hadn't acquired any of the education that would have permitted me to stay in that office for more than
and you'd given up on the dream to be a forest ranger.
I'd given up on that.
So does Harrison Ford have a way? Does he have a specific plan of like how he wants to do things? It really doesn't seem like it, and it's also something that you see again and again in several clips, that he just had an idea of what he didn't want to do. He didn't want to sit in an office for decades. So he is kind of using, I guess, OI or intuition
to project
into the future. Exactly. So might rather be NI, fitting with the SE, but he doesn't have a plan. He just was grabbing opportunities and like following his feeling of what he wanted to do. Okay, we learned that Harrison Ford can fly planes. I bet in real life he can also land planes, and he's very comfortable around pilots. So still sounds like an ISTP to me.
It does.
I didn't know you could fly a plane.
Why, yes! Land? No!
From what we've seen so far, it's probably pretty obvious that Harrison is not Savior Play. I mean, just listen to the guy. But in order to do this properly, let's go through and let's find proof for Savior Sleep.
Well, I'm not going to do another Star Wars film. That's episode in my life is concluded. Well, not considering what you just said about it. If I've been overwhelmed by special effects, no need to do that anymore. No, that's a chapter in the past, and we're meant to do one more Indiana Jones film. I think that'll be enough. It's always been my ambition to do different sorts of films, play different kinds of characters.
It took you a long time, didn't it? I mean, overnight success in your case took about 15 years, is that
It was a
right?
long night.
Yeah, it was a long
Yeah.
night.
Well, I always thought it would. In fact, I came when I was quite young to Hollywood. I didn't know very much about what I was doing. I had to learn. And I expected that it would take some time. I also saw that those that stuck it out, simply by the process of attrition, finally got enough work to make a living. And my only ambition, really, was to have regular work.
When the interviewer asks Harrison if he plans on doing more films like Indiana Jones and Star Wars, Harrison very confidently says, no, I don't plan on doing any more films like that. So this is kind of the sleep of, no, I've decided, no, I'm not going to do any more. But you're also hearing the OE in there of, I also want to do different things. But then he also says that he had seen and automatically knew that in order to become successful, he had to play the long game. He had to stick it out. Things were not going to happen overnight. And he was also seeing that that was happening to other people as well. So it's kind of an interesting balance there, having the OE with the sleep. So you're having the OE wanting new and change, but then you're also having the sleep, putting on the brakes and making some rules for the self.
So we've seen that Harrison Ford is naturally processed and patient, and it seems like quite obvious that this would be the way to success. But do we also see Demon play? Do we see that he's maybe not that able to spontaneously jump into a situation and react with an easy back and forth towards others?
Colossus.
You know, I'm just-
Colossus.
Yeah.
And then the minute you walked in here, it was all diminished.
Yeah.
Your career's through, Harrison. It's over.
Okay.
I've just been told that Shrinking no longer wants you.
Yep.
They're getting a new Indiana Jones.
Oh my God.
Yeah, been replaced. Nick Kroll will take over that role. What are you doing?
He's removing the belly button.
You're
mark.
removing. That's a little mark that keeps you on the belly button there, so that your lighting is just perfect, and you removed it. You're a carpenter. Do you like our table? What do you think?
Yeah, it's nice. Everything is nice here.
It's nice.
really
Yeah,
is.
we did a
It's
really
very
good job.
tasteful and nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you say? You, me, maybe we start hanging out a little more regularly.
Well, I thought we had this daily podcast deal. Like,
He was
don't ruin
clearly
this.
kidding.
Okay, there's actually a lot happening in this clip, especially in contrast with Conan. So Conan is TENE, play, blast, consume, sleep, so lead, play, double activated play. And you see Conan talking to Harrison Ford, paying attention to Harrison, also paying attention to the other two people in the room, joking with all of them. And in contrast to Conan, what does Harrison do? Like, he pays attention to the table, he fumbles at the table, at
picking at
this
something.
pin that tells him like how he's supposed to sit, and he doesn't really react to Conan. Conan jokes around with him, asks him a question, and he doesn't even reply, just mumbles something a little bit. So really maybe not savior play.
No play there whatsoever.
So far so good. Harrison Ford might still be an ISTP, just a more mopey version who conserves his energy in a natural way.
So far, we've confirmed that Harrison is a decider, he's OE, he's savior sensory, and he's also savior sleep, which automatically makes him DI. But as we highlighted in the Ali Abdal class, a social type can play an important role in how someone's OP type can present itself. So let's have a look at Harrison's social type next. So in the last clip with Conan, when Conan says, "Hey Harrison, should we hang out more?" and you see Harrison's face, I think it looks like Harrison might not be savior friends. And he is a little bit prickly. Like, kind of the more you get to know him, the more you see of him, he's got some rough edges there. So how does he talk about his fans?
You know, it's a weird thing to do, in my mind, to come to a place where there are fans. I always, I'm grateful for customers, and I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to make films that touch people and move them. And without there being films being successful, I don't necessarily earn the opportunity to have more choice in what I do. So I'm grateful to the fans, but I'd rather have customers I just want a clear exchange.
Well, I think
I'll tell you a
that's...
story, you pay to get in, and I get to go and do something else. But the fan thing just, that's a little bit...
So here the interviewer is asking him about his fans, and how does he refer to them? He refers to them as his customers. He wants an exchange, and he's weirded out by having fans or having people that follow him that he's not giving anything to. And he wants a clearly defined kind of professional relationship there. Now this type of professionalism is kind of a hallmark of Savior Flex and is usually more noticeable in the number 3s and the number 1s.
As Holly said, Savior Flex makes Harrison either a 1 or number 3. Then we have to look at the other coin. What about generalized with the specialized? Like, what kind of responsibility does he naturally prefer? But yeah, let's look at a clip.
Now, when you're a superstar and you've been in some of the most successful pictures ever made, I get the feeling that you don't really enjoy that part of it.
What I enjoy is the ability to pick and choose my projects. I enjoy the work process itself very much. The rest of it is not significant to me. I don't enjoy being a celebrity. I enjoy being an actor. I like the work. I like the fact that I can work on a project for 4 or 5 months and then have the freedom that success has granted me to go away and do something else. I've been very lucky.
Another short clip, but I would say you actually see quite a lot in there. Mm-hmm. So the interviewer pays obeisance to him, like he calls him a superstar. And is he interested in that? Like, does he want to be like at top of the pyramid? Does he look down on others? Like, where does he see himself in the tribe? But Harrison pushes this label away from him. He doesn't care about being a superstar. He doesn't care about being famous. What is really important, I mean, what you can see in several interviews, is doing the work. Like, he really defines himself as a worker, as an actor, as a storyteller, as a craftsman, and this is what he enjoys. This is what gives him purpose. Like, all the other things that come with this particular kind of work of being an Hollywood actor, he doesn't care about that. It's rather a nuisance to him. And again, what you also see is that he talks about the freedom he appreciates, the OE. Yeah. He also calls himself lucky, which is also a point for OE, but also a point for the specialist. So the opportunity of being an actor, of doing this very specific craft, comes because someone builds a system where he can place like one part in it. So he's kind of lucky to be granted that opportunity. Again, really hint for specialist. Mm-hmm. Also, this clip in particular, but just Harrison's general attitude, shows, in my opinion, really well what the difference is between a Savior DI or an IP and a number 1. So as a number 1, he would want to be at the top, but that's really not who he is. But as an IP, he defines himself. He's responsible for his own perspective. He's really hyper immersed in this perspective, and he knows who he wants to be. But that's necessarily not the guy at the top. It's, in his case, the craftsman. It might be the guy at the top in case when an IP is a number 1, but it really doesn't have to be. So as an IP and a number 3, it's really 2 points for being a little bit prickly, but take a look at what happens when someone tells him that they love him.
I love you.
I know.
So now we've saved the best for last. Harrison is in fact a mopey IP with Savior SE, so he basically is an ISTP. But let's have a look. Is this TI or is it FI? Before we go into this, let's get loaded up with the definitions between thinking and feeling. Thinking is working, getting it done, logic, reasons, unowned emotions. Feeling is values, likes, hates, weak reasons, and won't make it work.
How you make your decisions about what movies to do, because you seem to have a very strong obligation that you feel to the fans, the very people you were just talking about.
Customers.
Yeah.
Customers. Well, it's because being I make the choices really based of what I'm going to do based on a number of a really inarticulate equation of circumstances that will never be repeated again in the decision to make another movie. There's no matrix that I'm trying to fill in the blanks in. It's whether or not when I read the script, I feel an emotional understanding of the character I'm meant to play. It's whether or not I think it's a powerful story, and whether that character has a service to that story. It's whether or not I think that powerful story will communicate to the audience in an emotional way. It's whether or not I have to be away from home at an important time in my family's life. Whether I have to, all kinds of other things come into it.
Now here the interviewer has asked Harrison a thinker question. How do you make decisions about the roles that you have taken on? Now pay attention to his eyes as he's being asked the question. They go big and wide, like he's thinking, why are you asking me a question like that? This is the kind of response that you get when someone asks you about your demons. And he kind of flounders a little bit. He isn't really sure how to answer the question. But when he does get to answering the question, what does he point to? He points to an emotional understanding with the character, with the story, whether it's a story that he can tell in an emotional way. So that is how he's choosing his characters, is based on emotional connection, not reasons. Now, because everybody does both, another angle for tackling the thinker versus feeling coin is to kind of ask, what comes first?
But my knees were knocking so badly, you could see it from the back of the auditorium. Well, I couldn't live with that. I mean, that kind of fear I'd never met before in my life. I'd never been that afraid of anything. And I wanted to conquer that fear. That was my ambition. So I did another play after that, so I could get over this fear. Once I began to have some handle on the fear, and it never really ever completely goes away, then I became interested in the other aspects of acting.
How to do it.
How to do it. How to be useful in that situation. How to work with other people, and I'd never found a way to work with other people before. I'd always been solitary, isolated a bit. Never a joiner, never a teammate, or that kind. So here was a way of working with people, and here was something that intrigued me and challenged me. So I became interested.
Now remember, one of the definitions of a thinker is having unowned emotions. Now here in this clip we see that Harrison is owning his emotions. He wanted to act, he was so nervous, he needed to get over his fear of acting and performing in front of others, so that's what he did. He worked on that, and he didn't fully conquer those fears, but to a degree where he was actually able to act. And then once he had owned those emotions, then he was looking at the TE and how can I be useful, and how can I work with others, and how can I provide value and input in a TE sense. And I think that he actually explains TE quite well in this clip. But as we are seeing, it is the FI first, I'm owning my emotions, and then the TE comes later.
And to be fully honest, seeing that Harrison Ford is in fact not Savior TI but Savior FI was really hard for us at first.
Yeah.
We needed a little hint from Shan that came in an interesting form, because she just highlighted something in our notes. Because in our notes we had interpreted the clips, and our interpretation essentially was saying he's doing FI and TE. The form of thinking is TE. He's working with others. Working is always framed as a collaboration, but we were still stuck because of our bias that he would have Savior TI.
Mm-hmm.
But once we just looked at our own notes that we had written in several aspects and then saw more clips, we saw it everywhere. He always refers to his emotions. Those come first. Those drive in, as Holly beautifully explained. He owns his emotions, and then the teamwork comes later.
But he still wants to do the teamwork.
Yes.
But this is something that he had to learn to do. So yeah, it was something that once we saw it, we couldn't stop seeing the Savior FI. But we did need that little hint from Shan.
Yeah, so this was his discovery, and this is what he preaches.
The only advice I've ever offered young actors is to try and figure out how to do it for yourself. Never be caught with the idea that that you can imitate someone else's success. As much as you might admire what someone else does, don't try and imitate that. Find your own way. Find your own voice. Find your own feelings, and that will give you a unique opportunity.
One general typing tip is pay attention to whenever people say try.
Yeah.
I'm trying to plan, I'm trying to this, I'm trying to make it work. When they do that, they usually talk about their demons, because it's the non-obvious thing that they're talking about right now. It's the struggle, it's the discovery. So that's Harrison's discovery, trying to make it work. While at first you have to learn to believe in yourself and know who you are. That's the most obvious thing.
Another aspect that made Demon TE difficult for us to see is that Harrison does in fact have masculine thinking as a demon. I mean, you see this in the clips. He's disagreeable. He does say no a lot. He does punch with the reasons and with the thinking, but in a demon state, not in a savior state.
And he'll be delighted, because he'll listen to this and he'll say, you got Harrison Ford to talk about Gunsmoke. But it is interesting to me, like at that whole period, because Clint Eastwood gets started in television westerns, Burt Reynolds, you know, all these sort of iconic actors, Steve McQueen, all these guys had to do it's like you had to do your time on a television western before you could move on to other things. Is that a fair assessment of that period?
Well, no, not really.
Oh, for Christ's sake.
You're wrong.
Why can't you give me that? Why can't I have that?
You're
Why
wrong.
can't you just say, sure, yeah, fine, Conan, let's move on. Instead, it's no, you're wrong.
You're wrong, your brother's wrong,
Well, okay, I'm okay with him
your
being
name's wrong.
Okay, everything's wrong. My name's wrong?
No, I played the same kind of character over and over again, and nobody noticed. So I don't think I was not on the Clint Eastwood track.
Right, right.
So as you can see from this clip with Harrison, everything's wrong. Conan's wrong, his name's wrong, his mother's wrong, his father's wrong, his brother's wrong. Everything's wrong. This is, disagreeable masculine thinking, but in a demon state. For this next clip, we just want to highlight masculine DE, because I know we've already hinted that he is Savior FI, which gives him demon TE, and we've also indicated that it is masculine thinking, which automatically makes it masculine TE. But we would like to just show you a clip of what masculine DE does look like.
Clearly so exciting for people to see the two of us together. I have a confession to make, which is we didn't really meet, but we met in a way a couple of years ago, which you probably won't remember.
No.
And I'll excuse you.
Okay.
Most people think I'm Ralph Mouth from Happy Days. Hi, Richie. I was in Washington, D.C. about 2.5 years ago doing an event. I got back from the event late at night. They put me up at this nice hotel. I walk through the lobby. I'm really tired. I get on the elevator. The elevator door starts to close. And you're really tired. The elevator door is closing. And someone shouted out, "Hold the door. Hold the elevator." And I went to hit the button. And then thought, it was like too much to lean over to hit the button. I was like, and I just lean back and I don't hit the button. And as the door is closing, I see your face in the closing door, looking angrily at me, and the door shut, and I was like, ah!
Good night.
No, please. Please stay. I didn't realize I was tired.
I was tired too. No, maybe you had a big day. I had a big day too.
I'm sorry. It's big of me to relive this moment, I think. I could have just forgotten it, but I felt I should bring it up. And in fact,
I went up the stairs. 17 floors.
I
tried to find you.
I heard someone banging on my door about half an hour later.
I didn't really recognize you, but I was looking for the big, mean guy.
I'm so so sorry.
I'm glad I found you.
Yo, no. Let's straighten this out, first of all. I want people to relive the horror of what that was like for me.
Now, what makes this clip so hilarious is that Conan is also masculine DE. So you've got Harrison, who is masculine TE last, and Conan, who is masculine TE first. Now, when Conan is retelling the story about accidentally not holding the elevator door for Harrison...
Excellently.
Watch Harrison's body language as when he's kind of listening to it. Yeah, exactly. He's pointing, he's kind of putting himself up in the seat. Like, he is coming across like the aggressor, but then in his actual language, he is saying, I was looking for the big, mean guy. So assuming that Conan is the big, mean guy. And of course, Conan is probably thinking, I'm not the big, mean guy, you are.
Yeah, Conan is afraid of Harrison at the same time.
Yeah, so it's kind of silly, but just an indication of what masculine DE is like, how it sees itself compared to others, and yeah, just how it's actually portraying itself in the real world and in front of people.
A long time ago,
What? A long time ago?
in a place far, far away. I forget the rest.
I actually think it's a galaxy far, far away.
It's actually a galaxy.
Yeah, it's a galaxy far, far away.
But it was a long time ago.
It was a long time ago. In many ways, it was a long time
Can I give you
ago.
any detail at all?
You have no idea how long. It was really a long time ago, and it feels like it was far, far away.
Yeah.
But I hear they're thinking of doing another one.
So in the beginning of this clip, Conan offers Harrison $1,000 to give some clues as to what might be coming in the new Star Wars movie at that time. Now, Harrison tries to retell the most iconic Star Wars theme, like starting theme, and he screws it up. He can't remember the details of this iconic scene that he should know well. And yeah, he can't remember the details. So this is a good indication of feminine sensory rather than masculine sensory.
And the last reason we struggle with seeing Save Your Feeling was that Harrison Ford didn't strike us as an emotional person, but that's really not true. He does have pretty much one emotion.
And then I get there's this image of Harrison Ford that's out there that you're grumpy. There's this grumpy Harrison Ford image.
That's horse. Maybe first thing in the morning.
Right.
You know, before my
Occasionally,
coffee.
before your coffee.
But I'm not a grumpy person.
No, I don't think so at all.
Well, good.
In the process of typing a person, it's very important that you try to get out of your own head as much as possible. So really listen to the clips, take notes, listen to what they're saying, because you come in with some kind of bias, like Harrison Ford must surely be an ISTP, and you stay with that mindset. You need to get out of that because you don't know what kind of type Harrison Ford is. You really don't. You need to accept that. Harrison knows his type. He's gonna tell you his type with everything he says. You just need to be willing to listen. And you need to put pressure on yourself to do that, but there are all kinds of tools you can use that help you do that, like taking notes, looking at your notes, not looking at what goes on in your head. And of course, always going back to the definitions. Don't just assume you know what OE is, what DI is. Always get back, as tedious and as kind of useless as it might sound in a moment. Go back to definitions, go back to the OPS website, and also develop your own definitions over time, because maybe the definitions you see on the OPS website aren't like the right fit for you. It's not what kind of triggers the right understanding in you for the coins. So at the same time, you're allowed to build up your own definitions, but really do that. Write them down, see what works for you in the sense of that helps you align with Shan and Dave or with us. And then go back to these definitions and use your tools. Get out of your own head. In the end, we were a little bit sad that we can't say that Harrison Ford is an ISTP, but he basically is the FI version of James Bond still. So his full type is visual, FI, SE, consume, sleep, play, blast. and he's in number 3, which is kind of really surprising for Harrison Ford, this action-adventure guy, because he has double activated, double feminine saviors. So he has some kind of Hulk syndrome, but really the dominant part of his personality is feminine, which is really interesting and surprising. And while our biases were almost spot on from the start, it was really good practice to go over coin by coin and really properly prove everything. And in the end, Harrison Ford had one big surprise for us after all. To end on a more serious note, if you really want to know what goes on in an IP's head, and it doesn't matter if he's TI or FI in my opinion, just look at the following clip where Harrison talks openly about the things he struggles with the most.
I don't feel angry, but I guess I have moments.
About?
About stuff that's wrong.
The world around you? Materialism, doing to the environment?
No, you know, it can be me too. Me too. Failure to connect, failure to do the right thing, failure to be appropriate.
Very tough on yourself.
I don't know another way to be. I mean, yeah, sure.